Okay, today is Saturday, January 29th, 2022. Welcome back to Granny Square Peg. My name is Jenny. I have just one blanket to show you today. It's just one project. I'm calling it Crocheted Patchwork Squares Blanket. I know it's a mouthful, but you'll understand when you see it. So I'm going to show you. I have it hanging up. Doesn't that look like the perfect blanket for sitting with books and reading when it's cold and snowy outside, like today? Cold and snowy. But you see, all my little squares, but they're all different colors, so then they have a patchwork feel to them. Okay, so hopefully that's not too bad of an angle. Alright, so here's the thing. These squares are size-wise. They are roughly 3 inches wide, while being 3.25, and 3.5 inches tall. Okay, I did everything I could to get them as square as possible. I just couldn't do it, so they're a tad bit rectangular. The squares are 12 across and 11 down for a total of 132 squares, and the border is 9 rows of border. The blanket itself total is 43.5 inches wide and 42 inches tall. So just a little over, what, 3.5 feet? But still not exactly square, but I tried. Here we go, see? Crocheted Patchwork Squares Blanket. I started this blanket in March of 2012. I crocheted all the squares, and then I couldn't decide on what to do with them and how to put them together. So this blanket sat for 8 years just as a pile of squares until I can make up my mind on what I wanted to do with it. So, you know, the world's been in tailspin since early 2020. I had time and I finally figured it out, and I finished it in September of 2020. So 8 years this blanket has sat around. So since September of 2020, when I did finish it, it's just moved around from spot to spot, and here it is, January 2022. So a year and a half later, and I still have this blanket in my house because I just don't know how to let them go. So this is, see if we can see this. This is the bottom left-hand corner, okay? And then this square is dark green, light green, white with a dark purple, light purple with a hint of blue in it. Then we go to this green, which is speckled. Can you see those little specks of orange and blue in there? And again, this is flecked instead of speckled, although they are practically the same. Blues and purples, greens and yellows and pinks. So, you know, maybe I'll just be quiet and show you the blanket. Let me show you all the different colors to it. Like this blue one here. I love these shades of blue. And this is pinks and browns. So you see it's made with variegated yarn that has very short color changes. And I noticed that people don't really call it variegated yarn anymore. They call it multicolored yarn, but variegated is an old term. It just means yarn that has very short color changes to it. How 1970s does that look? Brown and orange and cream. You will see repeating colors because while I used leftovers for this blanket, some of the balls of the leftover yarn was bigger than others. So you'll see a repeating color like this one. And this one you'll see a fair amount of that in there. Here's one of my favorite colors. This is just all shades of purple. Light purple, dark purple, medium purple, purple with blue undertones. Oh, here's a good color. Blues and greens. Bright pastels. Now, let's flip it over. I'll show you the other side. So this is the bottom right hand corner here. Okay, so let's talk about how I did finally put these together. Do you see this row here? This is a row of single crochet, and I used single crochet to attach one square to the other. So I would hold two squares together, this one in the front, this one in behind it, and the hook would go through this square, it would come out the back of this square, and then you do your single crochet. Now it does leave a little bit of a ridge going across when you create the rows and the columns, but that's okay. I like that part. It's how I used to put all my blankets together back in the day. Oh, here, check out this color. This one is white with speckles that are red, yellow, blue. I don't know if the camera's picking that up very well. Okay, so for the border, you know, we're doing this all out of order. I didn't even tell you how I made the squares yet. All right, so once I did get all the squares together, for the border, I just did one round of single crochet, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds of half double crochets. And then the last round is a back post half double crochet. It gives it a little bit of a ridged texture to it. So most of it is light gray, and then this is medium gray, and this is black, which I'll show you a picture of it when it's all spread out on the floor. I think it came out really nice. So this is the front side of the blanket. This is what the back side looks like, where all the stitching, where the single crochets come through to stitch it together. So it does create, it is flat on this side, so it can be a reversible blanket if you don't like that texture on the front. Doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I like it both ways. But that's because I'm the one who made it. Okay, so this is in true scrap fashion, I think. You know what? I'm gonna turn around so I can talk to you guys better, because I think you understand what kind of blanket I got going on here, right? Hey, that's better. I like talking to the camera. I don't mind sitting behind it to show you the blanket, but it's hard to explain things sometimes from behind the camera. If I did my edits right, you will see that we're in the middle of a snowstorm, so it's cold. So you can hear the house heater, my little space heater, because my feet are freezing today. Hopefully the camera's not picking it up too much today. So how is everybody? Staying warm, safe, I hope. Here, let's cover up with a blanket while we're at it. So it makes a good throw-size blanket, and sitting it next to my books on the bookshelf, I think it would make a really, really good reading blanket, just to sit on your lap and tuck up on a nice cold day like today, snowy day, and read a book. Yeah. All right, so I'm calling it my pile of shame between the blankets and the yarn and how long my stuff sits around. It's embarrassing, and I do feel a little bit ashamed with it. I had started these squares, even though they're a little bit rectangular. While the oldest picture in my computer says 2012, I probably would have started 2010 or 11 with collecting. They were little balls of yarn that were only about yay big. Some of them were a little bigger. That's why you see repeating colors. But they were all leftovers from other projects. They were leftovers from my projects, leftovers from my mom's. Mostly my mom. I think most of this yarn came from my mom. Yes, so thanks, Mom. I'm pretty sure most of it came from my mom, at least for the squares. The yarn I used to do the single crochet to stitch them together, and then the yarn I used on the border, that's mine. But I'm pretty sure all these variegated colors came from my mom. She was a big fan of using variegated colors, multicolored yarn. I wasn't until the last couple of years. So yeah, 2012 is when the squares were done, and I couldn't make up my mind on how I wanted to finish them and to put them together. So again, with the edits, I'll show you pictures from my computer. I had done with the squares, I had taken a square and then put a row of white double crochet and then a row of black double crochet around it, and I didn't like the way it looked, and I was just so stuck on what to do with it that these squares, I just kept moving them from pile to pile, and eventually they landed in a bag and then landed in a bin, and they just got stuck in a pile, and then eventually they landed on the bottom of the pile. So I hadn't touched them for years. And then 2020 happens, and lockdown happens, and quarantine happens, and I had some time on my hands, so I started going through some of my older projects to see if I could finish them. Well, I mean, thankfully, with the help of my husband, and you'll see a picture of Baby Bandit. He was new to our house. He had only been with us for a couple months. You'll see that I finally sat them out on the floor and I stitched them all together and I worked on the border, and then it's done, right? That was September of 2020, and here we are in January 2022, so it's a year and a half later. So, I mean, this blanket's been 10 years in the making. I mean, it's finally done, and I'm glad it's done, but at the same time, I feel so much embarrassment that it's been sitting around for so long. So, enough of that. Oh. My ears are bothering me. I had to be outside in that cold snow. So let's see. All right, there's 132 squares, and I have them laid out with 12 across and 11 down. The border is 9 rows. Let's see. I used single crochet to sew the squares together. Okay, so the squares themselves are a half double crochet. And I used a small hook. Small for me. I'm a big fan of the size for a hook size. I like the G and the H. But I crochet big and loose. So there are times when I need my stitches to be a little bit tighter. So when that happens, I try to move down a hook size, because it is actually very hard for me to tighten up the way I crochet with my tension. So I go down a hook size. So I used an F. Okay, in American terms. In the rest of the world, it would be a 3.75 millimeter. And my stitch count. All right, so my starting chains. Like, I don't have any notes for this because they're just scrappy squares of yarn. So I actually sat with it this morning and just looked at it and tried to figure out what I did to it. As far as I can tell, let's try that math again. Let's see. My initial starting chain would have been 14, and then I would have done my first half double crochet in the second chain from the hook, and it would have been 13 stitches, while that chain 2 would count as the 14th stitch. So I know that my squares are 14 stitches across, okay? So it was 12 plus 2, okay? And the starting chain, the chain 2 is, I count that as a stitch, okay? So they're all half double crochets, and it's 9 rows, okay? So your initial starting chain, your first row across, and then 8 more rows after that, okay? And they did not come out perfectly square. So according to my notes here, because I measured it this morning, they are 3 inches wide, but for their height, they're anywhere from 3 inches to 3¼ to 3½, depending on the yarn and how much stretchability that the yarn had. So that's how I made the squares, okay? Yarn wise, most of it, if you can tell, most of it is Red Heart Super Saver, okay? In all of its variegated colors and its shades, okay? And then it's Aran with little flecks in it, okay? I'm thinking I have a few that are Caron Simply Soft, and you know, while they both say that they're the same size weight in yarn, the Simply Soft is always a little thinner. So the white with the speckles is Simply Soft, and yeah, this pink right here with the brown, this is Simply Soft. And then the yarn I use to do the single crochet to stitch them together is Simply Soft, and it's in what, a shade of green, another shade of green, and then this shade of blue. It was whatever I had left over. This whole blanket is made out of leftovers, okay? Because let's see, the border is this light gray, and then this charcoal gray, and then black. This is Bernat. It's their Super Value, which is very similar to Red Heart Super Saver. I got some little tails that are sticking out here. I'm going to have to snip them off. So, I mean, even sitting here, this blanket is keeping me warm because it is chilly in here today. But it's not overly big. It's sitting up here, and it goes down to my ankles. But I'm a short person. So yarn is mostly Red Heart Super Saver, some Caron Simply Soft in there, and some Bernat Super Value. I think it's called Super Value. All right, so that means the size and the weight of the yarn is, all right, so you know there's lace weight, there is DK weight, which means double knit. There's worsted, there's Aran, there's bulky. And depending on where in the world you're at, we all call it different things, even though a lot of times we're talking about the same thing. So here in the United States, the yarn is number 4 on the weight chart. We call it medium, and then we also call it worsted weight. Where I think in the UK, I think you ladies call it Aran weight. Okay, so that's what it is, and it makes for a nice warm blanket. So, and with the smaller hook, it makes for stitches that are really tight. And I think it makes for an adorable blanket. So I don't have any yarn samples to show you because I literally used every scrap of yarn for this. Every little ball of yarn that I got from my mom, and whatever I had, there is nothing left. The gray was a leftover from another project. The charcoal gray was left over. The black was left over. Everything. I have nothing to show you. But while I did have fun making this one way back in the day and then finishing it up, I'm just frustrated with myself that it sat around for so long. So, what do you think? Calling it a patchwork? Patchwork blanket? Would that be simpler? Patchwork squares? Crocheted patchwork squares? Yeah, I know it's a mouthful, but... So, I'm going to be listing this blanket in my Etsy shop. Okay, so it's a good throw size, 42 inches by 43.5 inches. So yes, I'm shamelessly self-promoting myself, and that's fine. I have blankets to sell. I have yarn to sell. I have stuff to find. It needs a new home. Um, it can't stay here with me anymore, and that's okay. So I have been, for the last week, since my video last week, I have been practicing with crocheting to see how my arm's doing. You should go watch my first video. I explain everything from a torn rotator cuff to a cyst in my arm that is stopping me from crocheting like I'm used to, and 40 years of experience behind me. Go watch my first video. I should have it linked in the description box below. I've been working on, I know I will never get back up to working 8, 10, 12 hours a day with crocheting, but I've been sitting and I can do, I started out with 10 minutes a day. I'm now up to somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes a day, which is good, and I'm okay with that for the moment, you know. I'm okay with that. So this is what I've been practicing with. These are leftovers from the Karen Cakes blankets from last week. You should go watch that video too. These are just all the little leftovers, and so let's see, I was the brick red, the blue, the green, and where am I up to now? I think this is new since I saw you guys last. Colors are coming out pretty good, right? And it's just a single crochet, 150 stitches back and forth, just so my muscles can remember the job and I can remember how enjoyable crocheting is. I do miss it. Some days I miss it tremendously. Other days it's just a little bit, and some days I'm sad about it. Some days I'm okay with it. I will show you at some point. I have I do have a crochet blanket on my bed. It's called a temperature blanket, and oh, it's massive. I mean, that blanket's like 10 feet by like 8 feet. It's huge. I will show you my temperature blanket in this process. And I also have another blanket that when it's time to take the temperature blanket off, I put a smaller crocheted blanket on there, and it's called Sophie's Universe, and I will show that to you. But I think that's it for today. Hopefully, if I did my edits right, I showed you a little bit of the snow. I showed you the pictures that are in my computer to show you how long that they've been in there. I should be showing you Red Heart Super Saver at its website called yarnspirations.com. Did I get everything on my list? Okay, I have notes that I wrote out this morning. This is the oldest project that I have. If you did see my first video, I've got like 30 plus bins, boxes, and bags of crocheted stuff and yarn. This is my oldest project as far as I can tell, from 2012. Yep, I think I hit all my checkpoints. So if you guys like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below. I don't know if I'm always clear about what I'm saying. It can be hard sometimes. It's a lot of information. I will be typing this up in a blog post with some pictures to let you guys know what I did. It's slow going over at writing up the blog post. While I can sit in front of the camera and talk, and I don't have a problem with it, but when I sit down in front of the keyboard to type, my brain goes blank. Like there's nothing in there, and I don't know quite how to get it all out. So just give me a little bit of time. I will see you guys next Saturday. What is next Saturday? I think it's the first weekend in February. Yeah, Saturday, February 5th. Okay, and I will have another project to show you. Or I might actually just have a bin full of yarn to show you all the random bins of yarn I have too. I don't know. I'll get back to you. So that's it for today. Thanks for coming along. And I will like the video, ask a question, comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next Saturday. Bye. Okay, so this clip I'm filming in advance, and I wanted to show you that some of these colors, that Red Heart still has similar colors on their website. I just want to take a look at that. See this? It looks very similar to their Monet color. But you see, they have so many variegated colors that would work. This is bonbon print. Okay, so I know this is not the best way to do it, but I have to do it like this because I actually have none of this yarn left over. This yarn was made with leftovers. So that's the color Zebra, which is the black and whites. The color Mexicana, which are these bright primary colors. I'm just saying, you know, Red Heart still has plenty of yarns that look like what's in my blanket. Well, that's the color Ocean. That is so similar to what's in my blanket, right? Although I think mine has more purple in it. Yeah, mine's got more shades of purple. So, Red Heart is now part of Yarnspirations. Let's see what other colors. And then there's these colors here. This is Derby Stripe. These are the long color changes, so you will not get the same kind of look with this. But how about this one? This is the color Reef.